My personal connections to Algonquin Park extend back a long time, to when, as an 8-month-old in the early 1950s, my parents first brought me to our cottage on Canoe Lake. From the vantage point of a bushel basket under a large pine tree high above the lake, I watched my parents build a little cabin in the wilderness. Every nail, shingle, window, and piece of recycled lumber had been driven up from Toronto, laid across 2 canoes, and paddled or ferried in a small boat across the lake. That, though, was the easy part, as all of the stuff then had to be hauled up the hill following a narrow path cut through the forest. Inspired in 1996 to learn more about the history of my fellow leaseholders and anxious to keep my young twins entertained, I spent 4 summers paddling around Canoe Lake, exploring its shores and visiting neighbors. Whilst my boys checked out the outhouses and ventured up all sorts of new paths into the forest, I sat with the matriarchs and patriarchs, listening and recording and collecting all sorts of stories and anecdotes, old photographs and manuscripts of times gone by. My first book, published in 2001 and retold as Algonquin Defining Moments podcast episode 20, was a short story about one resilient neighbor, Gertrude Baskerville. My second book, Algonquin Voices, selected stories of Canoe Lake women, won in 2002 the Ontario Historical Society's Alison Prentice Award for that year's Best Women's History. In 2004, I was asked to expand my scope to the entire park and spent several years researching and seeking out the history of every leasehold family in the park. This work culminated in the publication in 2006 of Treasuring Algonquin, Sharing Scenes of 100 Years of Leaseholding. Since then, another 6 books on people and landmarks in Algonquin and environs have been published. In 2020, with all of us in pandemic lockdown and unable to visit Algonquin Park, I decided to start a podcast so that at least if we couldn't visit, we could dream about it and listen to an elder sharing some of the rich human history of the park. Well, it turns out lots of folks are interested in my tales. So I welcome you all to join our virtual campfire and listen in.